Can you describe working with Bass, the Bigelow folks? I don't know if you ever went out to the facility out
I
there.
am familiar with Bigelow.
How it worked.
Sure.
Between
So
you and ATIP.
this is I think another really important part, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I don't think it's deliberate. I just think wherever there's a vacuum of information, people kind of fill it with whatever's convenient.
Right.
In this particular case, you had a process for a contract that went through the Defense Intelligence Agency, through the DIA contract vehicle itself within the organization of DIA. DIA chose Bigelow. Bigelow was not hand selected by Reed, and there was no influencers, hey, have Bigelow do it. So first of all, that's misnomer number one. There was no direct contract vehicle for Senator Reed to take care of a buddy over here in his state for a contract. That's absolute nonsense, because I know how the process worked, because I saw how the process worked. So DIA chose Mr. Bigelow and Bigelow Aerospace. Bigelow then further subcontracted this out. It wasn't this, hey, this is going to be some sort of capability that I'm going to build in-house and nobody's going to be part of. He looked for the best and brightest in the aerospace and the investigations field and everywhere else to try to answer the mission that the U.S. government legally gave him. So he did exactly what he was supposed to do. In fact, if I was back then Bob Bigelow, I would have done it exactly the same way. And I think the American people really need to appreciate that. That's not a bad thing. He did exactly what he should have done. In fact, that's exactly what I would have done. If I had a chance to do it again, I would probably do it exactly the same way he did.
Not a big moneymaker for him.
No, in fact, worse. I suspect he probably took a loss on it, because he's a good guy. He's somebody who's going to want to do the mission no matter what. At least that's my understanding of Mr. Bigelow. I don't know him intimately, but the products that came out of that organization were extremely professional. And I think, I think the amount of rigor that back in my day as a counterintelligence agent, I focused a lot of stuff on a lot of my efforts on counterterrorism and counterespionage. So the same level of rigor that was applied to an investigation involving a spy, an espionage case, or a terrorist was the same level of rigor applied to these things. This wasn't just going out and talking to somebody chewing bubble gum and saying, hey, what did you see? And I saw a bunch of lights in the sky. There was a definitive scientific and investigative process that was followed that would stand up in any court of law. As I said before, if this was a court of law, we are beyond reasonable doubt. The jury would have to convict. That's how compelling this data is. And I think it's unfair that without that information, people are jumping to the conclusion that this was some sort of money grab by Bigelow Aerospace and some crazy relationship between him and Reed. I think it's unfair, and I think, frankly, it's dishonest.
Bass produced a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
A lot of material.
Very quickly, by the way, too. That organization provided a very clear snapshot of not only what we knew, but more importantly, what we didn't know. And that later on helped us in the ATIP program to move forward and try to fill in those information gaps. In fact, I would submit to you, almost just as important of what Bass was able to tell us of information that we did know was the stuff we didn't know and what we had to focus on. And I think that was very helpful to us.